Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, dun. When I do that, it sounds like Mastermind. Dun, 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 dun. Tony Iommi. Mr. Tony Iommi. And just him. There he is. Yep, this is Tony Iommi's biography. This was obviously, as I'm sure you can see, this is the original release because it's massive hardback, which I didn't want. I don't want massive hardback. I want a nice little book about that big that's paperback that fits on the shelf. Obviously, I had to have it straight away because it was, I probably pre-ordered it, I think, which will be why. Another Sabbath blog. Obviously, the difference is it's from the horse's mouth, and it's the story of Black Sabbath. Obviously, I mean, it is my journey through heaven and hell with Black Sabbath. So, is that an autobiography? Is that Tony Iommi's biography of Sabbath? A Sabbath autobiography? It's really a Sabbath autobiography, really, apart from the bit at the start. It's a comic story. Occasionally controversial, so you're getting someone's perspective who was actually there. That's the thing, and really the obligatory anecdotes, the Sabbath anecdotes, is a thing, and that's what people are here for, isn't it? Since about certainly since the Osbournes, everybody knows, and really I think since the Don't Blame Me DVD Ozzy did in the early 90s, that was when people, everyone discovered actually they're really funny. Ozzy's like a comedian, he's fantastic, and they've got these funny stories. And it's weird how actually some of the Ozzy ones aren't true. He did not wee up the Alamo.
Really?
It's not true. I need to. He apparently said it on the the Jack and Ozzy road trip TV show. I need to find that and watch it because apparently that's where he said they go to there, and he said I didn't really do it.
Oh right, he said that on.
Yeah, okay. As far as I know, that's never been revealed before. It's just it was made up, or I don't know, or maybe he did something and they accused him of doing that, or something like that.
It's probably a couple of stories, squashed together. He probably did get caught peeing up something. Yes.
Okay. So what we're going to talk about, we can talk about the contents of the book, which is spoilers, but also is talking about Black Sabbath. But we can also talk about the book. And I think the thing we're going to talk about is that, obviously, given his background, Tony Iommi isn't going to be able to write a book. That's the reality of it. So it is as told to this guy.
T.J. Lammers.
It isn't like an interview. It is like what he's saying. What he's done, he has literally transcribed what he's saying. You can tell. Whereas Ozzy's biography, obviously, he just had a ghostwriter and he just wrote stuff. I mean, it's Ozzy, isn't it? So he doesn't care. But I like that. I like the honesty of it. It makes it the best, the most reliable account. That's fantastic. But it does mean it's literally written as Tony Iommi speaking prose. Really short sentences, not much descriptive language. You could be unkind and say it was written by an 8-year-old. We went here. I went to the shops. It cost £50. That's actually what it's like. I mean, literally, you could, But maybe that, you could argue that works. You can argue that doesn't work. I think some people didn't like it. They said it was boring because of that. I think it makes it unique and different to all the other Sabbath biographies. I mean, Jeff Nichols stole his thunder a bit with this one. Obviously, a lot of that had interviews from Jeff Nichols, and he sort of spilled the beans on stuff no one had ever talked about. So he stole his thunder with that one a bit. But this is Tony's perspective, which has maybe more reliable than Jeff Nichols' perspective. We know Tony Iommi is quite a private person, so he says certain things to be polite to people, so he doesn't want to upset anyone. I mean, later on in the book, when he says that Sharon helped out with marketing his Iommi solo record, and he said about that was strange. Seems strange doing that after all the trouble we'd had, which he never mentioned in the book.
I really like this. This is my favourite book that we've done.
Goodness me.
It's really strange. Okay, so what I find appealing about this, it does seem very authentic to me.
That's the secret. Yeah. They could have, the ghostwriter guy could have been a ghostwriter.
Yeah.
Instead, he wrote down what Tony said.
Yeah. We've sort of talked in the past about the mystery of Black Sabbath. These 4 guys from Birmingham. How did they...
They're from Aston. How did they do anything?
How did that happen? And it is kind of in here, sort of thing. You do get a real sense of what was going on.
Yeah.
And the stories are pretty funny. Some terrible storytelling. Yeah. There's just offhand, and Ozzy had left the band at this point. What?
yeah, that's true.
And then he decides to come back.
And when he's like, he says, so we recorded some songs with this other guy, and we did play Pebble Mill.
Yeah.
What? If you didn't know that, but wait, what? But anyway,
the fact that it's so, I mean, I was a bit intimidated actually because you told me, it's quite big font, Sam. It's quite easy reading, and it is. And then you look at, I think, okay, so how many chapters I've got to get through?
Oh, there's a lot of chapters.
And there's like 90 chapters.
They're like Douglas Adams chapters, aren't they?
They're just little
2 pages.
Yeah, little couple of pages of anecdotes, sort of thing. Great stuff about his bringing up. Again, I find that quite interesting because
that's never been told so well and so accurately. The stuff in there about his childhood we've never heard before.
Yeah, and it sort of does encapsulate. There is a sort of strangely brummy attitude with Tony Iommi.
Yes,
he's
the most brummy out of the four of them.
He's got this work ethic that's quite cutting.
Yeah,
I mean, he talks about people getting injured at concerts. You know, there was like some guy climbed up the balcony or something like that and fell and broke his neck.
Yeah,
and it's sort of okay. There's an element of concern there, but not enough that they would actually do anything about it in gigs.
Yes. That's very brummy. Just carry on. Just carry on. Oh no,
that's their thing, isn't it?
Anyway.
I think this is a great sort of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Authentic.
Yeah, it's authentic, and it's a great insight. That's the word I was looking at into sort of Tony Iommi, which I've never been that sympathetic about. Probably because Ozzy is all encompassing.
Yes.
You know, Black Sabbath almost became sort of
Ozzy and Black Sabbath.
Yeah, Ozzy's previous band sort of thing, the launch pad for Ozzy. But he does say in here, look, I assume the role of the band leader. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. It wore down on me after a while, and you can sort of you could see where
he saw it as a necessity. Yeah, partially to do with Jethro Tull, and he saw what was happening in Jethro Tull, how it was working. That Ian Anderson was so incredibly driven. Yeah. That's what you've got to be like, and then it will work. And it did. He was right. Yeah,
they needed that role with those characters.
Yeah, with those. Yeah. Shut up. Get on with it. Turn off on time tomorrow.
Plus, you've got the great anecdote, playing the tricks on Bill, filling his shoes full of soil.
Yeah, putting the flowers in.
And
climb over the balcony to do that.
Pushing him out into the middle of the lake.
Dressing him as Hitler. I like that one. Then they couldn't get the tape off his head.
I mean, he says quite early on that he believes in God, and he's come from a Catholic background.
Yes.
And he seems, he had some very. You would look at it and you go, "Wow, is there something there?" Because he believes in that he could leave his body and stuff like that.
He believes in astral projection. He does.
Yeah, and he said he would do it quite regularly.
Yeah, when he was on drugs, and now he's tried it again. Now he can't do it anymore.
Ghost is seen an amazing amount of ghosts. They're always recording in a castle somewhere, and they see a ghost.
Yeah.
And yet they were playing tricks on each other.
Yes, and they didn't know.
Yeah.
That's so sad. They had to go home every night because they were so scared. And they just done it to themselves.
It's mad. I really struggled with Sabrica. What was I went out to? Is it California or Florida to record Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and he got writer's block. So they tried again in a couple of months.
Clearwater Castle. In the UK. Yeah.
And it worked because
it just came out with Sabbath Bloody Sabbath.
Yeah. So great. I mean, I really like the stuff about how he crafted the things for his fingers.
Yeah.
You basically melted down some.
Washing up bottle.
That was
plastic.
Yeah. Washing up bottle lids, and he's still using the same bit of.
The same jacket. The same jacket.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
He's going to run out eventually.
Yeah. Great book. Great anecdotes. A real insight into Tony Iommi. And the fact that it's such short chapters makes it very tabloid-esque, which means it's sort of easy to read.
I like it to dip into.
Yeah.
And I did sit and read the whole thing, but often I'll just I've got a few minutes. What should I read that bit. Yeah,
you can do that.
You can't do that. Some biographies you can't do that.
Yeah. you're not going to get a great insight into music from this.
No.
All right, I was just reading that James Hetfield.
Oh yeah,
James Hetfield. Wasn't it?
It's his fault. Well,
Yeah. And I like, John Bonham was the best man at his wedding.
Yeah. I've always thought that's interesting, that Sabbath and Zeppelin were such good friends.
Yeah.
And I feel now that once John Bonham died, Plant was able to become too snobby. You know what I mean? That's what I sense, that Bonham kept him grounded and he couldn't get away with it. But and after that, I'm off to Morocco. I can't come here. Black Sabbath.
So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, this is the original release. There is a later version which has got the Cancer and 13 added. This finishes with them talking about doing 13. He does say, I don't know if this will happen or not by the time you read this. So he doesn't even know if 13 was going to happen at this point. And it did, so that's good. I think spoilers. This is the thing, isn't it? That we've
given away a few already, haven't we?
Yeah, but I think that the absolute zinger of this book, this has never been revealed, okay? Even to who this was aimed at, okay? Must have read this book and thought, you bastard! Because Martin Birch, right, the famous producer, Martin the something Birch, on all those albums, he did Rainbow, he did Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules, he did nearly all of Iron Maiden until he retired. During the recording of Heaven and Hell, they discovered, and it's ironic given what happened, but that he's really scared. He really believes, like Tony Iommi to a certain extent, but perhaps more so, he's really scared of a lot of black magic and things like that. He finds it really frightening. So they thought, okay. So they started messing with him, and he carved this little figure out of wood, wrapped it in some cloth, and put it in his bag. And then when he was around, he just opened his bag. Oh no, that's not there. What's that? Nothing. It's not anything. And they got Geezer in it too. So we're talking about, should we go to the meeting? Are you at the meeting tomorrow? And Martin Birch goes, what meeting? Nothing. It's not at no. And then he said, are you feeling okay today? Do you feel weird or anything? Why? What are you doing? And he kept doing this, and then they did Mob Rules as well, and he kept doing it, and never told him. So he must have read this book in 2015. You get. He never told him. And you think it's weird. After that, he never produced Sabbath again, and only produced Iron Maiden. Which, on the one hand, it's strange. A Number of the Beast was supposedly they had the bus full of nuns. He crashed his car. And it was a bus full of nuns he crashed into, and the cost for the crash was £666 or something. And some of those stories are true, and some of them aren't. Whatever. That's the next album, strangely. But of course, he never produced Sabbath again. That's probably why. And that's why Born Again sounds so terrible, because they didn't have Martin Birch. But that, for me, that was the moment in the book, because that's never been revealed. I don't think I'd never heard that one. That's just brilliant. I'd love to hear his response. So he must have for years thought they were really Satanists or something. He must have done. We obviously Jeff Fennolt, the controversial figure, after the old accepted wisdom, which was wrong. For people who didn't know the full details, was that Geezer left because of Born Again, which isn't true. Ian Gillan left, and there was a couple of singers around at the time, but David Donato was in the frame, and then he never actually recorded with them. And then Geezer left, and Jeff Fennolt was brought in, and it's never really been answered whether he was in Black Sabbath or not. This is the guy who went on to be this big televangelist. So if you say Jeff Fennolt, if people's heard of him, they know him as a televangelist who talks bollocks about Black Sabbath, about, I used to be into Satan and stuff, and now I've seen the light. He's just lying, isn't he? He's lying, making money. So obviously it's a big controversy. Was that Tony Iommi's solo album at that point, or was it Black Sabbath? And obviously there's the emotive element to that fans don't want to admit he was ever in Sabbath. And it's still not really answered. It's not quite clear, because once Geezer left, surely Tony started working on a solo album, and that's when he would have been involved. And then they got Glenn Hughes in, and then they finished the album, and then Don Arden decided it was going to be Black Sabbath. Surely that's what happened, but is it? And I don't know if the problem is he's trying not to offend people. So did he deliberately not make it clear that was solo or Black Sabbath? Because Jeff Fennolt says, I was in Black Sabbath. He did record songs with Tony Iommi, People call it an audition. Is it an audition if he's recorded songs, that stuff he wrote on there? Nothing was ever released. He never played a gig, so it kind of doesn't matter, really, does it? But obviously, it's a thing.
So what does he get out of saying he was in Black Sabbath? Is this just
he's a televangelist,
just for his televangelist? So he's not claiming royalties on anything, right?
No. It's obviously it's my story that I was captured by the devil and I saw the light. Bullshit. So you have to send me 10 million quid for some reason to help Jesus. I love Jesus.
Jesus wants me to have a private jet.
Yeah.
Dig deep, people.
Tony Iommi was asked to do interviews when he became mega famous. Tony Iommi was asked to do interviews about it, and he just understandably declined. But obviously, because it's Tony Iommi as well, he's not going to go for that, is he? He's quite a private person. But and you can certainly understand the argument that he wouldn't have stood a chance. You know, he would have been stitched up basically, and probably stitched up to made to look like he was a Satanist, as he sits there with his crosses. It's interesting. Everyone that talks about Jeff Fennell, either they hate him. So is it Joe Siegler? I hope I got that name right. Is the keeper of the flame, the Black Sabbath Online, the original website? That's the best Black Sabbath website. He's absolutely adamant. No, he was not in Black Sabbath. Fuck him, you know. But everyone that spoke to who knows him always says, "Oh, but he's a really nice guy. He's great. He's all right," you know. And I read into that he's someone very manipulative. That's what the televangelist people are like, aren't they? They make you like them. So yeah. It, to me, doesn't sound like a good person. So yeah, you've got this one talks about Jeff Fennell a lot, but I think that one gives the closest information we've got on that stuff. Is my thing. Yeah, we've talked about Bill, the boat, Hitler. We haven't painted him gold. I don't know, and then it covered his whole body, so he had a fit, and they had to call the doctors, and they couldn't get the paint off.
What is interesting, the amount of deaths that he's been around.
Yeah, he talks about that. What happens when people die?
Yeah.
They made that same noise when they died.
Yeah,
I thought it was really grim. And that's the thing, because he's not a natural speaker, and he obviously doesn't write books. Things can be a bit jarring occasionally like that. So that's quite something quite light, and then I saw someone die, and then that's the end of the chapter. You know. So it doesn't flow nicely, and he does. He is critical of Tony Martin. Now, that piece of criticism is absolutely valid, and that's what people have said. In that he didn't really have the front man thing, and he is fronting Black Sabbath, so he's compared to Ozzy and Dio, and he just doesn't have the charisma. It doesn't matter how good a singer he is. He's not, perfectly good front man. He does have charisma, but not Ozzy. So that was a criticism, but obviously because. He's trying to be truthful, but he's trying not to criticise anyone. So that comes along as a thing of, okay. And he didn't criticise anybody at all, apart from, Yeah, I think, so there are some complaints about this book, but not from us. I think if you read reviews, people will say, it's kind of boring. There was kind of two things in that one. On the one hand, this exciting, amazing story, and it's just mundane. Yes, it's from Birmingham. Of course it's mundane. This is real. You're getting what really happened, not the Ozzy Sharon spin. So that's what we want, isn't it? That's why it's good. It's as closest we'll get to actual, people complaining. I saw a complaint saying he reviewed talked more about the last four albums than the first four albums. Ridiculous. Well, of course he did. That's what he remembers. He's not going to remember 1970s. And I think that's probably true to say that those first four albums, in terms of talking about the music, it's all stuff we've heard before. So he's probably getting it from things he's heard, and he probably remember himself. So there we go. He's talked about doing a new album, I think, within the last couple of weeks.
Really?
A solo album, yeah. So that's great. And I wonder if that's going to involve Tony Martin, because apparently they were talking, and it was like, we're going to get remasters. There's a gap in the catalogue on Spotify, on CD, everything. There is stuff that is deleted, Black Sabbath albums, that are deleted that you can't get. Headless Cross, Tear, not Dehumanizer for some reason. I don't know why. It must be with a different record company. Cross Purposes, Forbidden, and Cross Purposes Live as well. So the good ones of those need re-releasing. The bad ones don't. Just forget them. You don't need a new mix. It's not going to help. It's terrible. So yeah, there you go. It's a 5-egg book.
Yeah, definitely.
It can't be a 6-egg book because of the dodgy prose, but it's the truth, man.
Yeah, I agree. Love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Black Sabbath.
Oh.
I wonder what... It's funny how we I think Sabbath is the band. Apart from the because we're a prog channel, we go back to King Crimson and whatever. The things that we wouldn't naturally do as a prog channel, Sabbath is the one we always go back to.
Yeah.
More than anything else. More than Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, that's mad, that is.
Local band for local people. Cool. That's it. Thank you very much.